Have you ever noticed how that premium wood-smoked bacon you bought from Woolworths or Coles shrinks to the size of a postage stamp the second it hits the frying pan, leaving behind a massive puddle of cloudy, sputtering white water? You paid $35 a kilo for a premium breakfast, but instead of thick, crispy strips, you get a shriveled piece of salty leather floating in industrial bilge. That is not bad cooking technique, and it is not your fault. You are witnessing a corporate magic trick designed to sell you cheap tap water at the price of pork belly. You will find out exactly how the biggest supermarket chains in Australia use mechanical needle injection rigs to pump raw meat full of chemical fillers. I will show you the hidden ownership loops where 3 separate brands on the shelf are owned by the exact same multinational, designed so you never realize your money goes to the same place. We will crack open the lab reports and recent food recalls showing that what is lurking in the fridge is far worse than extra salt. The absolute worst offender on our list is not even a budget brand. It is a product explicitly engineered to target people trying to eat healthy. By the end, you will know the 10 household brands to leave on the shelf and the 4 actual gems worth your cash. Before we name a single brand, we need to look at how a normal pig belly becomes supermarket bacon, because the modern industrial shortcut is a complete horror show. Traditional bacon takes weeks. You rub pork belly with salt and spices, let it draw out moisture slowly, and hang it in a real smokehouse over burning wood logs. It is a slow, expensive process that loses weight as moisture evaporates, which is exactly why big corporate meat processors hate it. They figured out that instead of waiting weeks for water to leave the meat, they could use a mechanical matrix of hundreds of hollow needles to forcefully inject water back into the muscle fibers. It is the industrial equivalent of stuffing bricks with wet sponges to make them weigh more at the scales. This chemical cocktail is not just tap water, it is a brine solution packed with sodium phosphates, which act like molecular glue to hold that water inside the meat so it does not leak out in the plastic packet. A landmark study published in the journal Circulation by researchers at UT Southwestern Medical Center exposed how these dietary phosphates trigger high blood pressure through a brain-mediated mechanism that agitates your sympathetic nervous system. The industry hides behind the excuse that these additives are safe, but they are essentially using your health as collateral just to sell you excess water weight that evaporates the moment it hits your skillet. Then comes the illusion of flavor. True wood smoking takes hours and wastes product. Modern factories simply splash liquid wood smoke extract into the chemical brine injection or mist it onto the meat surface. To prevent the waterlogged pork from rotting on the shelf, they dump in sodium nitrite, a synthetic preservative that keeps the meat looking artificially pink. When that synthetic nitrite hits the high heat of your pan and reacts with meat proteins, it transforms into nitrosamines, compounds that the World Health Organization officially classifies as Group 1 carcinogens. You think you are buying a wholesome breakfast staple, but the reality inside that wrapper is a chemical assembly line. Let us start looking at the specific brands pulling these stunts, beginning with the house labels you buy without a second thought. Number 10. Woolworths Essentials Bacon. This is the budget packet most people grab when they are trying to feed a crowd on a Sunday morning without breaking the bank. The plain packaging looks honest enough, and the price is tempting. But if you flip that plastic packet over, you'll spot the classic formula. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, mineral salts, antioxidant, and sodium nitrite. It is a bare minimum industrial brine recipe. The real trap here is that Woolworths does not own a single pig farm or processing facility. This house brand is contracted out to whichever commercial processor submits the lowest bid this quarter. The factory supplying your breakfast can change from month to month with absolutely zero change to the front label. You are buying a lottery ticket where the only constant is that the pork is almost certainly imported from massive overseas confinement operations, frozen, shipped across the globe, and thawed out to be pumped with Australian tap water. Number 9, Coles Smart Buy Bacon. Coles runs the exact same corporate playbook as its green rival. They pitch it as a win for your wallet, but the savings at the checkout register are systematically extracted from the quality of the meat. Open the packet, and you will find thin, watery, highly irregular slices that tear apart before they even touch the pan. This is because the pork is subjected to aggressive, high-pressure brine injection to force the maximum amount of liquid into the muscle fibers. When Choice Lab Test analyze budget bacons, they consistently find that these cheap house brands are stuffed with added water that cooks off instantly, leaving you with a shriveled scrap of salty rubber. You are literally paying Coles a premium price per kilo for water weight that turns into steam the second it hits the pan. It is a retail illusion disguised as a bargain. Number 8. ALDI Bacon. ALDI has built a cult following in Australia for offering European-style discount prices, and their Berg House label is a massive seller. The marketing leans into a clean, traditional alpine aesthetic, but the reality inside the plastic is pure industrial efficiency. The pork used in Berg bacon is overwhelmingly imported, Which brings us to a massive systemic issue in the Australian meat market. Because of local biosecurity laws, raw pork cannot be imported into Australia unless it is cooked to extreme temperatures at the border to destroy potential pathogens. This means the pork in your Berg bacon is subjected to a double cooking process, first to sterilize it upon arrival and then again during processing. This destroys the natural cellular structure of the meat, which is why Berg bacon often has a chalky, mushy texture. If you are already itching to check your own fridge, subscribe now because the corporate deception only gets worse from here. Number 7, KR Castlemaine. The branding is dripping with regional Australian pride, invoking the historic gold rush town of Castlemaine in Victoria. It conjures images of a local family-owned butcher curing meat in the countryside. But KR Castlemaine is actually owned by George Weston Foods, a massive multinational conglomerate. The local heritage story is a marketing screen. What you are actually buying is a standard industrial product loaded with sodium. A couple of fried slices of KR Castlemaine will easily dump over 600 milligrams of sodium onto your plate before you have even touched your eggs. That is nearly a third of your daily recommended intake. The corporate parents are leveraging Australia's nostalgia for regional farming to sell highly processed, salt-saturated commercial pork that has more in common with a chemistry lab than a Victorian country farm. Number 6, Don Bacon. Don is one of the most famous small goods names in Australian history, with a massive presence in Woolworths and Coles deli counters. Their slogan is "Don is good," is practically burnt into the national psyche. But Don is also owned by George Weston Foods. That means Don and KR Castlemaine, two brands that seemingly compete for your attention on the supermarket shelf, are actually two arms of the exact same corporate entity. This is an ownership loop designed to give you the illusion of choice. If you decide KR Castlemaine looks too cheap and reach for Don instead, your money goes to the exact same corporate treasury. The ingredient deck is identical, featuring the same synthetic nitrites and sodium phosphates. You are paying for a premium brand name, but under the hood, it is the exact same industrial engine. Number 5, Dorsogne Bacon. Based in Western Australia, Dorsogne presents itself as a premium, craft-focused brand with deep Italian heritage. They plaster the Australian-made logo on the front, but you need to look very closely at the country of origin bar chart underneath it. A massive portion of Dorsogne's bacon range is made from less than 10% Australian ingredients. That means the actual pork belly was sliced from pigs raised in Denmark, America, or Canada, frozen solid, and shipped on container boats across the ocean. Dorsogne simply defrosts it, runs it through their West Australian processing facility, injects it with local water and curing chemicals, and labels it as made in Australia. It is legally compliant, but highly deceptive to the average shopper who wants to support local Aussie farmers. Number 4. Bertocchi Bacon. This is the premium-looking brand with the high price tag to match. It sits on the top shelves of the deli aisle, wrapped in sophisticated gold and black packaging that practically screams old-world Italian craftsmanship. But read the fine print on the ingredient list. Bertocchi frequently adds dextrose, a cheap corn-derived sugar, alongside standard cane sugar to their curing solution. This dual sugar trick is used to accelerate the curing reaction in the factory and mask the harsh metallic taste of the chemical preservatives. The result is a highly sweet, candy-cured strip of pork. You are paying a premium price per kilo for what is essentially a sugar-loaded, water-injected industrial product with a luxury Italian name printed on from the front. Number 3, Primo Traditional Bacon. Primo is the absolute titan of the Australian small goods aisle, controlling a massive share of the national market. Most Aussies grew up eating Primo, trusting it as a reliable domestic brand. But Primo is owned by JBS, a Brazilian multinational that is the single largest meat processing company on earth. JBS has a dark corporate history globally, marked by massive price-fixing scandals, environmental destruction fines, and regulatory battles. When you buy Primo, you are not supporting a local Aussie operation. You are feeding a global corporate machine. The bacon itself is a masterclass in industrial compromise. It is heavily injected with brine, containing high levels of sodium phosphates to trap water, and artificial smoke flavorings rather than genuine wood smoke. Number 2, Hans Bacon. Hans is positioned as the primary competitor to Primo, often sitting right next to it in the Coles and Woolworths deli cases. It looks like a completely independent choice for consumers who want to avoid Primo. But Hans is also owned by JBS. They bought the brand specifically to lock down the Australian supermarket shelf. Whether you buy Primo or Hans, your Australian dollars are funneled directly to the exact same global meat conglomerate in Brazil. The packaging is designed to keep you from ever connecting these dots. It is the exact same industrial bacon formula, manufactured in the same massive processing facilities, using the same imported frozen pork and chemical additives, just packed into a different plastic sleeve. Number 1, Supermarket Turkey Bacon. This is the absolute worst product on the supermarket shelves, not because of a corporate fine, but because of deliberate, highly targeted health washing. It is specifically designed to be bought by people who are actively trying to make a healthier choice. When a doctor tells a customer to cut down on saturated fat or red meat to manage their cardiovascular health, they walk into Woolworths or Coles and reach for turkey bacon, believing they are doing the right thing. But the first ingredient on most commercial turkey bacon labels is mechanically separated turkey. This is the industry term for a slurry made by stripping the final scraps of meat off turkey carcasses under extreme hydraulic pressure. The resulting paste is mixed with starch binders, canola oil, and sunflower oil to mimic the texture of real pork fat, and then seasoned with the exact same synthetic sodium nitrites and sodium phosphates found in budget pork bacon. The World Health Organization makes zero distinction between pork and poultry when it comes to processed meat. Both carry the exact same Group 1 carcinogen classification. You are eating a highly processed paste of scrap meat and industrial vegetable oils, wrapped in a label engineered to abuse your trust. Right? Here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. It turns out you do not have to live on a sad diet of dry toast and water to protect your health. There are ethical, family-run Australian farms and craft-curing houses refusing to play the corporate game. Before we run through them, we need to clear up a massive piece of labelling spin that you will spot on nearly every premium packet in the organic section. Many clean label brands advertise their bacon as uncured or nitrite-free, claiming they use celery powder or beetroot powder instead of synthetic chemicals. This sounds like a healthy victory, but the science is clear. Celery powder is naturally packed with nitrates, which convert into active nitrites during the curing process. Professor Darish Mozaffarian, former Dean of Nutrition Science at Tufts University, has warned that celery-derived nitrites are chemically identical to the synthetic stuff. They do the exact same thing to the meat and the exact same thing inside your body. The brands on our good list do not get a pass because of a celery loophole. They earn their place through outstanding animal welfare, zero chemical water pumping, and genuine timber smokehouses. Best option number 4, Woolworths smoked Australian bacon, Ashwood smoked. If you are stuck shopping at a standard supermarket and need something clean, accessible, and reasonably priced, this is your best default. Woolworths created this line specifically to address the backlash against cheap imported pork. Look at the packaging. It has a nearly full green and gold kangaroo bar chart showing 90% Australian ingredients. It is smoked over authentic Australian mountain ashwood in the Victorian Highlands rather than sprayed with cheap liquid chemicals. The pricing is highly competitive, sitting at about $35 a kilo, which is only a fraction more than the chemically injected brands. Because it is a mainstream supermarket line, there is still some added water and mineral salts to keep it moist on the shelf, but you are supporting local Australian pig farming instead of global industrial monopolies, and the difference in the frying pan is massive, no huge puddle of white water. Woolworths, you show one best option number 3, Uncle Smallgoods nitrite-free bacon. If you want to step away from mass production chemistry, this Melbourne-based brand is a game changer. You can find their range at Harris Farm Markets and premium independent delis. Uncle's is one of the very few commercial small goods makers in the country that has committed to a completely nitrite-free process. They do not hide behind the celery powder loophole. They cure their pasture-raised Victorian pork using only natural sea salt, vinegars, and fruit extracts. This craft dry cure process takes days of slow absorption rather than minutes of high-pressure needle injection. When you cook a piece of Uncle's bacon, there is zero shrinkage because there is no added water weight. It is dry, dense, and has a rich, deep pork flavour that commercial brands cannot touch. At approximately $60 a kilo, it is undeniably a premium product, but you are paying for pure meat, not chemical fillers. Harris Farm Market's best option number 2, Gamzee Smokehouse Free-Range Bacon. Based in northeast Victoria, Gamzee is the gold standard for clean eating in Australia. Their philosophy is simple: zero chemical preservatives, zero artificial additives, and absolute sourcing transparency. Every slice of Gamzee bacon comes from free-range pigs raised on pasture in the Ovens Valley, with no antibiotics or growth promotants. They cure the meat using a proprietary natural process based on sea salt and vegetable extracts, then smoke it slowly over local Australian hardwoods. The texture is firm and meaty, holding its shape perfectly in the pan and crisping up to a beautiful mahogany colour. At around $55 a kilo, it represents a fair price for genuine free-range, pasture-raised pork cured by hand. It is widely stocked in independent health food shops, high-end butchers, and select IGAs across the country, making it highly accessible for anyone wanting a clean breakfast. Best option number 1, Poacher's Pantry Smoked Bacon. Hidden in the Canberra district, Poacher's Pantry is a legendary artisanal smokehouse that sets the benchmark for the entire Australian small goods industry. They source only premium Australian pork from ethical, crate-free farms. Their bacon is dry-cured using traditional methods that take up to a week, allowing the natural moisture to slowly evaporate and concentrating the pork flavours. It is then cold-smoked over beechwood shavings in their custom smokehouse. The result is a spectacular, savory flavor profile with an incredibly delicate, smoky aroma that elevates any breakfast dish. It is a true gourmet product that you can buy at select independent grocers, boutique delis, and direct online. It sits at the top tier of the price spectrum, but you are buying pure, uncompromised Australian food heritage that cooks beautifully with absolutely no white water residue. It is the gold standard for your kitchen. Here are the 5 concrete rules you need to master the Australian small goods aisle. First, always flip the packet and check the green and gold kangaroo bar chart. If the bar is less than 90% filled, you are buying imported frozen pork belly pumped with local water. Second, scan the ingredient list for mineral salts like sodium triple-iphosphate or numbers in the 400 range. These are chemical binders used to trap water weight inside the meat. Third, look closely for the phrase smoke flavor or liquid smoke in the ingredients, which tells you the factory-sprayed chemical extract instead of running a real timber smokehouse. Fourth, treat words like uncured or nitrite-free with heavy skepticism unless the label explicitly guarantees zero celery powder or vegetable extracts. Finally, buy your bacon from the butcher counter or look for explicit free-range or pasture-raised certifications to ensure you are not buying industrial pork from intensive confinement facilities. The big takeaway from this investigation is that the modern corporate meat industry is built on selling you water disguised as pork. They use massive ownership loops, hiding brands like Don and Hans under foreign multinationals like JBS, so you never realize your grocery spend goes to the same place. To stop being a marketing victim, you have to stop buying bacon based on the rustic farm illustrations on the front of the plastic wrap. The single mindset shift you need is to treat bacon as a premium whole food rather than a cheap processed breakfast commodity. Thanks for watching, mates. If this investigation changed the way you look at your Sunday morning fry-up, share this video with someone who eats bacon every single week because they deserve to know what they are actually putting into their body. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these brands is sitting in your fridge right now? If you want to see what else the big supermarkets are hiding from you, click the video on your screen right now where we crack open the dark truth behind Australia's commercial chicken industry. Stay sharp, read the back of the packet, and stop paying premium dollars for corporate tap water. See you next time.